Hey guys, it's so good to see you again. Today we have two special guests. We have Emily one more time, and we have the one and only Dr. Nikki. We met Dr. Nikki a couple weeks ago, and we were pretty impressed with all her knowledge, and we're excited to have her here. And for you guys, she's gonna share her brain, and that is pretty valuable. There's a lot of money in that brain, so we're pretty blessed to have you here. So thank you for being here, Dr. Nikki.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we just want to start with a couple questions because we feel when we met you, we felt that a lot of students and a lot of doctors that are not doing great, and even if they think they're doing great, they need to meet you because you have a lot to share with them. So we just want to know where you from, where do you practice, and where do you go to chiropractic school?
I am born and raised in Northeast Pennsylvania. I am a graduate of Penn State University. And after Penn State, I went to Life University. So that's where I went to chiropractic school. After Life University, I made my way to Alabama, which is where I practice now, which is the most random thing. If someone were to tell me when I was 20 that I would have a practice in Alabama, I would be like, you're insane. But my practice is in Gulf Shores.
Nice. So you're on the beach, but surprisingly, you have a northern all the way in Alabama. That's pretty random.
I know it's
So
super random.
that is super random. So you see a lot of people. I was pretty impressed that you do it by yourself. Can you talk about how many people do you see on the daily and how do you do it with one staff, correct?
I do have one staff. And so also as a not a disclaimer, but it wasn't intentional to go down to one staff. But I think over the years, by creating really solid systems, I found out that I was able to do it with one person. So we see anywhere between 85 and 125 patients per day, just depending on half shift, full shift, people's frequency. So some weeks it's heavier with an every other week adjustment schedule, etc. But yeah, I do it with one staff person, and we are able to do that because we've created systems that it doesn't really matter if someone needs to step away from the front desk for a little while and come to the back and help or go take x-rays or do scans, etc. We're able to have our our practice pretty much on automation.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You mentioned system twice, and I remember you and I were listening to her recording, and you mentioned that back on the day, your room was a mess, and no one expected you to be the Quin system. Can you talk about that? What got you into that?
I have no idea. It's so true. When I was growing up, my room was absolutely disgusting. And I was just really messy. Even when I was in college, and I can think of one friend in particular, her name is Casey, and she used to come to my room and be like, let's organize this, let's do that. I'm like, this seems pointless. So just over time, I have no idea how it happened, but my office is just so streamlined. And I don't even really think I realized that until I started working for Stephanie in the Wealthy Practitioner, because when we're talking and I'm telling people like how I do this, they're like, wait, you do all of that stuff where you have systems for all of that? I just thought it was like normal and standard. And then the more I started talking to newer chiropractors, I was like, okay, I actually have this systems part figured out. Let me teach you how I do that.
That's awesome. So seeing high volume, I would consider you a high volume practice. Do you have an ideal client or somebody that you really like to serve?
I do. Two patients come to mind. One's name is Kendall, and she is 33 years old. She's got a 2-year-old daughter. She makes all of the health and financial decisions for her family. So she's one of my absolute favorite patients, which I would consider ideal. And then another one that comes to mind, her name is Kelly. She's older. She's not older, but she's older than Kendall. She's in her mid 40s. Her kids are grown, and she's just hilarious. So I love her, but she's also, again, she's in charge of her family's financial and health decisions, and she's just a great patient. So I like women. I do prefer women. And I also like moms.
Yes, and it sounds like they bring really good energy to your practice. They light you up. They light your fire. Can you speak on that a little bit about how doing this high volume, having these amazing systems, how does that bring energy to you and to your practice on the daily?
I love that question because I think as chiropractors or any service provider, when you first start out, you're just desperate, right? So anybody who's calling you, anybody who can kind of pay your fees, anyone who halfway shows up, half kind of on time, you're like, yes, bring all of your friends. And then as you start to build your practice and get busier, you come home and you're like, I'm so miserable. Patients are complaining and people are not following my care recommendations, and there's got to be a better way. And so when you really start to think about which patients on my schedule are draining me and which patients really light me up and bring me joy, you can start to tweak everything that you do to help create more of those ideal clients, the people that you love. You can slowly start to get rid of the ones that drain you, however you need to do that. But then naturally over time, the people that you love and the people that you do your best work with start calling you more. Your marketing starts to talk more to your ideal client. You start to tweak your systems so that it does cater more to your ideal clients. Like we have like a kids area. And so if someone hates kids, they're not going to like our office because kids are there, they're running around. We have things specifically in place for moms and for kids, like diaper changing stations, etc. So even when your non-ideal clients see that, they start to realize, ooh, I'm not sure I love this practice either, and they will naturally start to weed themselves out too.
Nice, yeah. And most of our listeners are students, and how you mentioned, we think as chiropractors we need to serve everyone, and whoever comes to the door, we need to serve them. Have you ever fired a patient?
Yes.
How did that go your first time?
Horrible. I was like, I'm sweating thinking about it. And this man, he was very old. And I was doing a report of findings with him, and he told me that my voice was annoying. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is what we're doing. I let this guy come. I was like, okay, well, he's someone's grandfather. We're just going to let him come. I'll suck it up. And I will never forget when I had my child. So this was almost 6 years ago, and I was sitting back in my office, not quite back at work yet. I had an emergency C-section, so not released from that yet. I physically couldn't adjust. And this guy walks in after we're closed, and he says, I need an adjustment. And I was like, well, Mr. Jim, we're closed, and I can't adjust you. And he said, well, you're sitting here. And I said, you know what? I'm happy to send you up the street. I think there would be someone who would be a much better fit. If you must know, I just had surgery and I cannot adjust you. And he didn't feel bad. He was just like, well, where can I go? So I sent him up the street, and that was a very liberating experience to know this guy's never going to walk in ever again.
Yeah, I love that. Sometimes we don't plan for those crazy moments, but when they happen, I feel like it makes you grow and it expands your concept and what you're capable of doing. On a call recently, you mentioned that you had to fire an associate in the middle of a shift. And then I think you said you went and delivered a care plan and a financial to a patient. Can you just speak on the power of systems in that moment and just how it just expanded you and how you were able to deliver still?
Yeah, I did end up letting him go at the end of the shift, but I found out things smack dab in the middle of a shift where I was like, I have to let this person go. Okay. And I was in with a new patient. I came out, my staff member told me something, and I was like, you're lying. And I immediately texted Stephanie and was like, I have to fire this person. And I'm going through there, and I said, be right back. I have to go deliver this care plan. And I went in and I just, he signed a care plan. And it's really when you can get to a point in practice where you don't let the stuff that's affecting you personally, or even if your office is burning down, that literally that you can go in, stick to what know that this person needs your help, tell them what they need, and then he signed a care plan. So just not letting all of the stuff and the noise start to bring you down, because I could have easily been like, oh my gosh, now I'm down an associate and I have to let this guy go, and what am I going to do? I just was like, I'll deal with this later. Went in, presented a care plan, and came out, and it's a great patient.
Love that.
That's pretty cool. Master of systems there.
Yeah.
One more question. If you were a student right now, let's suppose you're in 10th quarter, 11th quarter, what is something you wish you would have done?
I love this question because when I was in school, I was completely unprepared for real life. I think when you're in school, they pump you up, right? You're going to see like 1,000 patients and you're going to make $1 million in your first 2 years. And everything that you do should be out of service and abundance. And you should just give your whole life away and give your body away as far as adjusting as many people as you can. And so I came out of school thinking it was going to be easy. And I took a job as an associate. And at the time, I was like, wow, this is a really tough associateship. Looking back, though, I learned how to speak, how to get on camera, how to talk to patients. So I would give students the advice of whatever you think it's going to be like, it's really not. And that if you can find a mentor, whether that's a boss or a coach or someone who can help you not make the same mistakes that they've made, you will save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars, but also time and headache. So you can really skip from the growing pains of all of the things that all of us have done wrong and start to figure out from the very beginning, how could I do this successfully where it's not jeopardizing my health and I'm truly happy with the practice that I'm building.
Amen. Yes, and that is something we love about working with Stephanie, is that you guys are pretty main focused on having a better family life rather than just burning yourself on the office. And I feel that's a lot of mistake that chiropractors do, and their relationship with their families and everything, like they just get ruined.
I did that, right? And so, I've been in practice. I've had my own practice for 9 years, and the first 5 were just like doing all of these things I'm saying, right? So sacrificing time with my spouse and then just being at work all the time, not really having a life outside of that. And then once I had my daughter, things really changed because you start to realize, and you guys have a child, time goes so fast. And if you continue to just only spend all day, every day at your office taking care of patients that genuinely do not appreciate you and your service, you're sacrificing that for watching your kid grow up. And so that's where I got to a point where I was like, you know what? We don't need to do it this way. I don't need to save the world. I don't need to see every single person in Gulf Shores. I need to see a select few that appreciate me and who are willing to pay for my service, show up on time, and adhere to the care recommendations that we give.
Amen.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Nikki, for being on. You have certainly given us a ton of value. I know that the listeners of this podcast are going to have a ton of value as well. So thank you. Thank you. Where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you or if they want to listen to you more?
On Instagram, my username, my handle is Dr. and then my name, Nikki Cottis. So DrNikkicottis. That's where I post most stuff about chiropractic, also about the wealthy practitioner. And my kid's really funny, so I post lots of funny stuff that she sends me to.
I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Nikki, and have a great week.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.